When I saw this church, I realized that it was something special. And when I started joining the campaign, I knew this much about the church. The fact that it was the last reminder, because all those stores are gone, all those businesses are gone. It's the only reminder to anybody visiting that area that Italians once lived on the Lower East Side, in Ocean Hill. So this is the only thing there. But eventually, as I got in contact with Dr. Flavia Laya, started to learn about the architect, the sculptor, and the whole idea that Reverend Sorrentino wanted to make a statement to the Diocese of Brooklyn. Okay, so these people are entering the church. Oh, and incidentally, I want to mention, you see the altar says, and the Word was made flesh. That saying will be found on an altar in the Basilica of Loredo in Italy. So obviously, Biancardi or maybe one of the other workers, the artisans, or even Reverend Sorrentino had seen it there, and he sort of wanted to bring that into this particular church. The article is that this is the only remnant of an Italian-American neighborhood. Okay, and immediately we joined together. Barbara Florio, which is she's sitting next to me, she asked me to come on board, and without hesitation, I said absolutely. I said, I saw this church, I know what it means, and at that point, I only knew this much. Okay, and so the other people came on board. Charles Piazza is our key person, he's our organizer, and he's into real estate, so he knew something about how to deal with property. Okay, and here we're basically discussing what are we going to do. How important is this church? Do we save it? Why? Etc. And what do we do? Okay. I spoke to the editor of the Italian Tribune in early January when I found out about the church, and he said, "I'll do an article." He says, "However," he says, "I'm going to give you one piece of advice." He says, "I'll only do it if you find 10 good reasons why that church has to be saved." And it forced us to now look at the building. 10 good reasons. And that caused us to do research. Okay, first of all, we started talking to various councilmen. Tony Avella, he was in charge of the Italian-American caucus of this city council. He immediately, within the same day, I sent him a letter. The same day, he sent off a letter to New York City Landmarks Preservation Commission. Okay, if that New York Landmarks Preservation Commission says that this building is a city landmark, they cannot destroy the building. The owner cannot destroy it. Okay, and also I got in contact with the director of Sacred Sites Program, the New York Landmarks Conservancy. I called them up in March, not really knowing what this organization was. Charles Piazza says, "Give them a call. I heard about them. Give them a call." I called up, and she said, "Our Lady of Loredo." Well, we were just getting ready to type out a letter to Albany. We want that building saved. And so basically they came on board, and her reason was that the important building and rectory building, or some portion of it, should be salvaged and incorporated. The very first time I saw this church, I realized that it was something special. And when I started joining the campaign, me to Albany. And I spoke to Kathy Howe up there, and basically she said, when I sent her photographs and I sent her stories, and also a survey done by Landmarks Conservancy, she said that according to Criterion A, it should be declared a National Historic Site because of the ethnic and social history of the surrounding neighborhood. It's part of the cultural landscape of Ocean Hill. The Italians lived there for 80 years, and they should be recognized in some building that's left over. And Criterion C, it was an outstanding example of 20th century Italian Renaissance revival ecclesiastical architecture. She's the one who introduced me to this concept of concrete block, cast stone. Our Lady of Loredo has a proud history that is a significant part of the Italian Catholic heritage of New York City. And that heritage at the moment is underrepresented in the state. If you really look at historic sites in New York State, you will find that Italians are underrepresented. There are many Jewish places that are recognized as National Historic Sites. We have a lot of Protestant churches, African American sites, etc. Okay? So he brought in a developer, and that's Jeff Dunstan to the right, who brought in immediately an architect designer. He brought him to the church and he said, look at this church and see if you can design something where we save the church and we build around it. The diocese wants affordable low-income housing, we'll give it to them, so we will build around it and we'll use the church as a cultural center because that particular neighborhood is in dire need of a cultural center. So here is his design. Jeff Dunstan works in the area, he knows the area, his wife is from Our Lady of Loredo neighborhood, and so these are some of the plans that we put together. This is what it would look like. Okay, so you can see that the church is there as a cultural center. The rectory will be saved, probably for an office. And then we have homes in the apartment building. This is going to be, I guess, about 7 floors.
The church is the tallest building in the area.
98 feet tall. If it was declared a city landmark, the diocese cannot knock it down. She got a reply saying that they were rejecting it. They were not going to give it city designation because it lacked community support. Of course, the question is, well, what do you consider by community? Is it the community they're living there, or is it the outer ridges of Brooklyn? Once again, you look at this church and you say, does it deserve to be destroyed? We don't think so. Okay, here's our case for landmark status. First of all, it's a cultural landscape of Ocean Hill, Brownsville. The Italians lived there for almost 80 years. It's the only remnant of an Italian settlement. The uniqueness of construction, it's a rare application of cast stone. Recognition by landmarks qualifications by New York Landmarks Conservancy and the State Historic Preservation Office, and it had prominent craftsmen, the 5 that I mentioned before. And okay, significance to the neighborhood, it would be the first historic site in Ocean Hill. It would be a community center for the housing complex. Remember, he's going to build those 4 housing. The basement would be used by people living in that area. It would provide an educational, cultural center in an artistic environment. Okay, affordable, attractive housing. And we would draw on its Italian past for activities. Of course, art, music, food. Okay, and a venue for local community activities because they really don't have any there. Okay, and questions. Why would the diocese and the bishop oppose the preservation of an Italian-American historic treasure? That's something we'd like to ask the diocese. Why are the diocese and the bishop denying the local community, primarily Hispanic and African-American, the cultural center? And why are they rejecting a proposal when the restoration of the church is not going to be on the diocese? We're a better plan. We think this is a better plan because we're saving a magnificent church for the community and for our heritage. And our plan would be the creation of 101 apartment units, restoration of the church, restoration of the rectory, rebuilding of the Don Bosco Center, giving it back to the diocese gratis, and returning to the diocese, we're going to return to no exchange, no cost in exchange for air rights. And of course, it will be environmentally attractive with the greenery and walkway. And so these are basically the credits, okay? But we want to stress the fact that it will become a cultural arts center. The church was dedicated on April 5th, 1908. Beautiful building that needs to be saved as part of our heritage and to be reused in the neighborhood. Okay, so I want to thank you for coming here.